Rainier the Ritter looks to continue his DDP-like run this Saturday as he takes on the fill-in replacement opponent of Brendan Allen, his teammate. I'm going to go through all the fights on UFC Vancouver. I'm going to give you my early pick, my early lean before all the tape study goes in, before all the boxes have been checked. This is basically what we know about each of the fighters in the matchup. And I'm going to give you my thoughts about how I think the fight will probably go down before I get into the tape. But before we do that, we have to recap how UFC Rio went last night. It went pretty dang well. We went up 1.71 units on the straight bets and the parlays, and we went up 3.25 units on the DFS plays as well. I'm going to ditch the Zyn because I might spit it at the camera. It's 6 in the morning, and I'm filming this video because it's my daughter's first birthday. So, yeah, we're a little bit, chugging on the monster a little bit. Trying to get going. Popped a little Zinachino, but we made some money last night. So now we're up 75.9 units in 2025, and we're on a 9-week winning streak, or a 9-card winning streak with the UFC cards. So, we've been cashing out, man. We've been cashing out nicely. So if you want all the bets, hop in the Home Fight Picks premium membership on Winnable. There's a link down in the description below. Use code HeyJive, get you a 5-day free trial. We won 9 straight UFC events. So, if you don't want to continue winning, I guess don't. But if you want to, go ahead. Link down in the description below. You can sign up for 5 days free. And that's where you're going to get the DFS plays early as well. Let's get into the fights, man. We're starting off with a disgusting fight. Makes me want to vomit, especially at 6 in the morning. I got a daughter, so I'm not going to go too hard on these ladies. But this is a type of fight that you just probably don't even care for. All right, we got Tainara Lisboa, minus 180, taking on Melissa Croden. I watched a couple of Melissa Croden's fights, and I came to the conclusion that if she wasn't Canadian, she would not be in the UFC. She would not be getting this shot. So obviously, this is in Vancouver, and so they need some more Canadian talent. And they couldn't find any men. There's just not enough men in Canada that fight in MMA. There's a couple good ones. Not amazing, but there's a couple decent ones. So they got to go to the women. She's 6-2 in her professional MMA career. Her losses aren't bad. I'll give her that. Jacqueline Cavalcanti, she fought her on the regional scene. Maybe it was in PFL. She lost to her, and then there's this other Brazilian chick that she lost to early in her career. But lately, she's been getting a couple of finishes, so maybe we could see some violence. All right, Melissa Croden, her last time out, she TKO'd the chick with like 6 straight tie clinch knees. And that was in the second round. The whole first round was just her in the clinch. It looks like she's a clinch warrior, which I can get down with. But Lisboa is a 34-year-old Muay Thai striker who's been in MMA for a few years now. She's going to be touted as this girl that, fought Valentina Shevchenko like 13 years ago in Muay Thai. But that's not her anymore. I bet on her to win her last fight against Luana Santos, and that was a terrible bet because she got taken down and just rinsed on the mat. Lisboa does not have a good ground game. She's 2-1 in the UFC, which is crazy, but her 2 UFC wins are terrible. One of them is a girl that's also on this card. We'll talk about her later. Disgusting fight. Absolutely disgusting fight. I'm going to take Lisboa for the early pick here, but I wouldn't be shocked if this has split decision written all over it. Okay, I don't really think we're going to get a finish here, but I do think if it goes to the judges' scorecards, they're probably going to have a little home cooking for Melissa Croden, and I don't really think Lisboa is going to separate herself that much to where it's going to be too clear for the judges to give it to her. So watch out here. I'm going to take Lisboa because she's got the UFC experience. I do think she's a decent fighter. Like, I don't even want to say decent, man. This is just disgusting. Hate that I had to start the card with this fight at 6 in the morning, but I did it anyway, and those are my thoughts on this one. Let's move on. Much better fight. Middleweight bout here. We got Azamat Bekoev coming out minus 260 against Yusri Belgaroui. Yusri because we saw him on the Dana White Contender Series, last year? I think it was last year. He's an Alex Pereira training partner, Glory kickboxer. He's been with Alex Pereira for a long time. And I think that's why, he's getting his little shot in the UFC. Because when he fought on the Contender Series, he didn't really look amazing. And he won, but he didn't get a contract. Also think he had like Lyme's disease or something in that fight. He fought, I don't know, he lost. Did he lose? He fought Marco Tulio, I think. I think he fought Marco Tulio. I'm sorry, boys. It's 6 a.m. But he's fucking big. He's fucking big. He's 6'5", not like some fast, powerful striker, really. Like, he's not all that. And when he's fighting I know he's 1-1 on the Kano Contender Series. I think he's 1-1. I think he lost to Marco Tulio, had Lyme's disease, came back the next year and won by decision. And they still didn't give him a contract. So Dana doesn't like this guy. Dana don't like this guy. And I think they're just giving him a shot because they needed to fill a spot on the Vancouver card. Bekoev, on the other hand, 20-3, dude. I mean, this guy's fucking doing it. Guy's fucking doing it. He's knocking guys out in the UFC. He knocked out Zachary Reese, knocked out Ryan Loder. Trains at ATT. I think Bekoev is good enough to get this one done here. I really do. I think if he wants to wrestle him, he can wrestle him. If he wants to strike with him, I think he's probably the more powerful striker. I do think Belgaroui could give him some troubles at range because he's so tall and so long. But Bekoev, with the wrestling threat, probably should be able to let his hands go a little bit cleaner because Belgaroui's got to watch out for those takedowns. I don't know that Bekoev's going to like rinse him on the mat though, or even have like a super easy shot at getting him to the ground because Belgaroui's takedown defense, it's a tall man takedown defense. Like if you get in on his hips, he's just going to back up against the cage and it's going to be hard to lift him up because he's 6'5". So I'm going to take Bekoev here for the early pick because I do think, he could get some striking going. Belgaroui's, got a little bit of a giraffe syndrome. Shout out to the teller. But I think Bekoev gets this one done. He's the early pick. Let's move on. More women's MMA. Ugh, God. Gross. Stephanie Luciano coming in at minus 335 against Ravina Oliveira. Ravina Oliveira is one of Tainara Lisboa's UFC wins, who we talked about earlier, if you didn't skip through that one. Ravina Oliveira fought at 135 in her UFC debut. She's now going down 2 weight classes to strawweight. And when I watched this girl coming into the UFC, I thought she's not awful. She's not awful. Like, she's still young enough where she could be making some improvements, but I didn't really see anything that stood off the board to me. And now that she's taken a bit of a layoff, she better be coming back with some type of improvements, because if she doesn't, she's going to lose to Stephanie Luciano. Luciano, solid striker. Obviously, last time out, she lost to Sam Hughes, but I had a bet on Sam Hughes there. And it was a close fight, and I actually thought Luciano gave Sam Hughes a really tough fight. Like, for Sam Hughes to be a girl that pushes such a heavy pace, I thought she would break her late in the fight, but Luciano was there. She was there. She was there for all 15 minutes. She just didn't quite have the masculine energy in that cage to get it done. In this one, Ravina's a little bit more of a brute of a Brazilian woman, but I do think Luciano's technical striking is going to be a little bit too much for Ravina here. If Ravina can get takedowns, though, could get interesting. But Luciano's, in almost every fight, girls want to take her down, so I do think her takedown defense should hold up here against Ravina Oliveira. Give me Luciano for the early pick here. Heavy chalk, though, is, it could be a split decision, man. It could be a split decision. Who the fuck knows? I'm going to take Luciano, though, for the early pick. Let's move on to some lightweights. We got Daddy Dober coming in here as a minus 450 favorite, taking on the pride of Canada, Kyle Prepolec, going in there against BSD in his UFC debut. He's not 0-3. He's not 0-3. The graphic guy messed up on that one, but he's 0-1. 0-1. Oh, no, he's 0-3. He's 0-3. I apologize to the graphic guy because I forgot that this guy was in the UFC way back when. But yeah, he's 0-3. 0-1 most recently, though, against BSD. This is interesting because Daddy Dober's chin looked like it is officially cracked. But you got to give him some grace. The guys that he's facing are much better than Kyle Prepolec. The thing with Kyle Prepolec, though, is he's not a terrible striker. He's really not. He's got some power. He's got a sneaky head kick, sneaky left hand. It looks a little bit stiff. But, if he connects on Drew Dober, who am I to say that Drew Dober's chin isn't just completely cooked? It was, at one point, the best chin in the UFC. It was... They had to do tests on this man's chin because it was so amazing. Terrence McKinney knocked him out like 5 times, but he just ate that shit. And ultimately, Terrence McKinney threw like a head kick, landed on Drew Dober's chin, and Terrence McKinney fell to the ground because Drew Dober's chin was just too strong for his head kick. I think Dober probably gets a win here. Dober's still got power in his hands. But the problem is the dude needs to walk through shots to land his punches because he's so short and so stout. And he doesn't throw any feints. He doesn't really set anything up. It's literally just southpaw. He might throw a couple kicks at range, like a couple body kicks, a couple leg kicks. But it's southpaw, walk you down, and just try to 1-2 you or 3-2 you down the pipe. And if that left hand lands on Kyle Prepolec, I could see him hurting him. But Kyle, ever been KO'd. Kyle's real problems is on the ground. But I don't think Drew Dober's going to, go in there trying to take him down and exploit that. So Drew Dober at minus 450 is, you're better off taking like a KO prop. I think you're better off taking a KO prop. Actually, I don't know because it could go 15. You're going to be clinching your cheeks for 15 minutes. But Dober is the early pick. It's a bit wide, though, for me, for a guy that has some durability issues at this point in his career and is so hittable. He's so hittable. So Dober's the pick, but a little bit of hesitancy there. Middleweight bout, we got Danny Barlow coming in here off the knockout loss to Sam Patterson, taking on Jourdain Santos at plus 205. Jourdain Santos was once, an amazing fighter to me because he cashed as a huge underdog on the Contender Series to Will Curry. Got it done with his takedown defense and that nice solid boxing. But then he comes into the UFC and he looks amazing against Ozzy Diaz in round 1. And then the guy just gasses out. Ozzy Diaz comes back from the dead and just outworks the guy. And he wins a decision. So now we're at, Jourdain Santos is losing to Ozzy Diaz. And that's not a good point to be. And Danny Barlow getting knocked out by Sam Patterson didn't look like a good thing at the time. But now Sam Patterson is looking pretty dang good. He's looking pretty dang good. So you got to give him some grace. And that left hand of God down the pipe is probably going to give Jourdain Santos some troubles. Now, Jourdain Santos has good takedown defense. He has good volume. Pretty solid durability. So if Jourdain Santos can avoid that big left hand down the pipe early, he might be able to outwork Danny Barlow late in the fight. I don't really see it, though. I don't really see it. I think Danny Barlow probably does get this one done. I don't really think Danny Barlow is going to gas out. I think his range is good enough here. At minus 240, though, if he doesn't get the KO, it could look pretty close. He looked so good in that Josh Quinlan fight, and then just such a disappointment. Maybe he was injured going into that Sam Patterson fight, but he got clipped and he felt it. I don't know that Jourdain Santos has that type of danger on the feet. So I'm going to take, Danny Barlow to get this one done. I think he probably does land the better shots and wins the decision or lands that left hand down the pipe and puts him out. Give me Danny Barlow for the early pick. All right, we got some flyweights now. We got Hyun Sung Park taking on Bruno Silva. And this is the classic Bruno Silva test for the young flyweight. Hyun Sung Park obviously took a massive step up in competition when he faced Tatsuro Taira his last time out. Short notice, main event, got taken down. He got dropped in round 1. Then he got taken down in round 2 and submitted. And I think he probably should be able to come in here and bounce back against Bruno Silva. The thing is, Hyun Sung Park is hittable. He's extremely hittable. He's been dropped not only by Tatsuro Taira, but he's been dropped against much lesser competition. And Bruno Silva has some power in his hands. He's 35, so he's way past the prime age of a flyweight. And at this point, he's facing Joshua Van. He's facing Manel Kopp. These are really, really good fighters. Really good fighters. And he's getting beaten up. He's getting beaten up because he's not as fast as them. He doesn't have the cardio to deal with them. They're both durable. They're both very quick. Their defensive wrestling is both pretty solid. I think if Hyun Sung Park wants to win this fight, he's got to mix in some type of takedowns to try to wear out Bruno Silva. Because if he just goes in there round 1 and they're swinging it out, Bruno Silva can knock you out. He can knock out Hyun Sung Park, and he's also got a decent ground game. But I do think Park, being the younger guy, is going to be a little bit faster. I do think his hands are sharp. He mixes in his weapons pretty well. A lot of people were like super high on him to beat Tatsuro Taira. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you smoking? I never thought he was that good. So now seeing him at minus 240 coming off a loss to Bruno Silva, it's like, I don't really love it. I do think he probably wins, though. I'm going to take Hyun-Sung Park for the early pick. Younger guy, solid striker, good grappler. I think he should win, but if he doesn't have the right game plan, like Bruno Silva can make you pay. And Bruno Silva is coming off losses to very, very high-level guys. So you can't be down on him for that. But I'm going to take Hyun-Sung Park for the early pick. Got to watch some more film on this one, but I might be able to sniff out if, Bruno Silva might be a good dog, but got to watch some film. All right, we got Charles Jourdain coming in here against Davy Grant. The Unk got it done again his last time out against Damon Blackshear. Shout out to the boys that cashed in with me with the plus 230 ticket against Damon Blackshear in Abu Dhabi. He comes in here, 39 years of age, nearly 40, taking on Charles Jourdain, who is at the ripe age of 29 with 14 UFC fights. So, this guy, Jourdain, feels like he's been here forever, and he's only 29. Now his brother, Louis Jourdain, just got into the UFC. I hope they could get him on this card. I know he said he wanted to be on the card, but I guess maybe that's just not going to happen. Maybe they get a little late edition. Who knows? Because this card could use it. Jourdain at a pick'em against Davy Grant is interesting, and I think it's probably correctly priced, honestly. Because I look at this matchup, I'm like, well, I think it's kind of a toss-up, man. I think it's kind of a toss-up. Davy Grant is going to be tough to knock out because his movement is so good. He does have some heavy hands, and Charles Jourdain is a guy has been extremely hard to knock out. The only guy that's done it is Jean Silva. And on the ground, I think Charles Jourdain might be the better grappler, but I don't really see him like going down there and getting top time on Davy Grant or submitting him on the ground. Davy Grant looks safe against Damon Blackshear. We know Damon Blackshear is an insanely good grappler. He took him down in round 1, won the round with the grappling, but never really threatened to away on the ground to where Davy Grant was like, holy shit, this fight might be over. He just stayed calm, got out of it, got back up to the feet the next 2 rounds and pieced him up. And Davy's a guy that's been subbed a few times, but that was early in his career. And I think he's kind of worked on that and fixed those holes in his game. I think Davy could get this one done. Man. I do think Charles Jourdain at 135 is a better weight class for him. I'm not really loving the younger, the age difference here in my early lean, but I gotta take Davy, man. Davy's just been so good to me. I got to take Davy for the early pick. I got to watch some more film on it. But right off the bat, man, I got to err with the side of Davy Grant. The Unk to get it done once again. A little vet lesson for the 29-year-old 14-fight veteran in Charles Jourdain. Give me Davy for the early pick. All right, before we get into the main card, I want to remind you, if you want all my bets, not just who I'm picking to win. Of course, I'm going to have the most confident picks video later in the week. But I like to do this early picks video for a little bit of fun. You want all my bets? Jump on the Home of Fight Picks Premium membership. Use code HeyJive for a 5-day free trial. We're over 75 units in profit in 2025, and we're on a 9-event winning streak for the UFC. Let's make it 10 at UFC Vancouver. Link down in the description below. All right, we're going to some lightweights here. Kyle Nelson's going up to 155, where he has been at before, taking on Matt Frevola, who is coming off brutal loss last year against Farazzian, where he got kneed in the face and KO'd for the 4th time. So Matt Frevola's always had a little bit of a chin issue, but we've also seen him go through some wars. And last time out against Farazzian, he did not look good. But he was in enemy territory, and Farazzian looks like he's on an insanely nice streak. Kyle Nelson, on the other hand, coming off the loss to Steve Garcia in round 1. At 145, where Kyle Nelson was on a sneaky streak. This guy, Kyle Nelson, arguably should have been cut after he fought Duho Choi and they went to a draw. Because I think he was like 0-3-1 at that point. But he was Canadian, so they kept him around. And then he went on a winning streak where he cashed as an underdog like 3 or 4 straight times. Beat Blake Builder, beat Bill Algeo. There was like 1 or 2 or more in there again. I'm forgetting who. But he got knocked out by Steve Garcia in round 1 his last time out. And arguably that it was an illegal strike. He got elbowed in the back of the head and then just kind of covered up. And they were trying to appeal it to where, like, dude, there's a mark on the back of my head. That was clearly an illegal strike to the back of the head, but the ref didn't do anything about it. You can cheat and you can win in the UFC. But Kyle Nelson coming in here as the underdog, and it's kind of tempting, man. It's kind of tempting because I think Matt Frevola at 35 years of age is definitely still powerful. He's got power in his hands, but I don't know that he has much durability at this point. I do think in his last fight he looked pretty slow. I know he can wrestle, but I don't know that wrestling Kyle Nelson is like the path to beat him. And on the feet, like, Kyle Nelson is such a stiff striker, but it kind of works. It kind of works. He's not very powerful, but he keeps it clean, and he doesn't really take a lot of big shots. So I think Kyle Nelson could get this one done. In his home country of Canada, up a weight class is interesting, but I don't think he's going to be, like, outsized here against Matt Frevola. So give me Kyle Nelson for the early pick here. Matt Frevola's not really a guy I'd be looking to back at this point. So, I mean, especially at a chalk price, you minus 136 doesn't really make sense to me. Give me Kyle Nelson for the pick. Bantamweight bout here. No idea how this made it on the main card. Maybe it won't be, but for now, that's where they got it. Cody Gibson coming in as a slight favorite to Aoriqileng. Aoriqileng, I believe he fought in Canada a few years ago. There's no way this is correct, dude. There's no way. There's something wrong with that. Graphics guy definitely messed that one up. But if he fought in Canada a few years ago against Ahmed Zahabi, and he got KO'd for like the first time in his career. Flatline KO'd against Ahmed Zahabi, and Ahmed Zahabi ain't knocking out like anybody. So that was a bad look for AQ. And AQ, I never really thought the guy was good. I don't really know what he's good at. I guess being tough, taking punches. I guess he can mix in some wrestling. But then, like, he's getting subbed on the ground or whatever. He's just not really good at winning UFC fights, man. And Cody Gibson's the same way. So now it's pick your poison. Who do you hate less, honestly? And I think it's probably Cody Gibson, man. I think it's probably Cody. Cody is not the worst striker, but it looks awkward. It's kind of effective. On the ground, I do think he's a decent grappler, but he can be submitted as well if he gets put in a bad spot. He is big for the weight class, though, and that's probably why I would lean his way. Huge for the weight class, 5'10", 71-inch reach. He can kick from the outside, and his takedowns are not bad. I believe he's like a wrestling coach still. I think he's a teacher still, which maybe he's not. Maybe he quit. But he's a wrestling coach at his high school, so he works on wrestling a lot. I do think if the fight hits the mat, he's probably the better jiu-jitsu player as well. So I'm going to take Cody Gibson here. I'm going to take Cody to get it done. Disgusting fight. Makes you want to vomit. I'm going to drink this unnamed drink because we don't have a sponsorship, but give me Cody Gibson for the early pick. Hopefully that makes it way down on the early prelims before this fight card gets finalized. All right, we get some decent fights here. I know I've been shitting on women's MMA on this card because it's pretty low level, but this fight is interesting. I like it. I like this fight. Malott Fiorot coming in at minus 220, fresh off the loss to Valentina Shevchenko earlier in the year, taking on Jasudavicius. Jazzy on a nice long win streak. Jasmine is probably the best fighter in Canada right now. Can you name another one? I know we're going to talk about one after this fight, but I think Jasmine's probably better when it comes to, in her weight class and just how she does it, dude. Jasmine is a fucking animal. I always thought Jasmine had some potential, but I didn't know that she was going to put it together. And she looks like she's really put it together. She's huge for the weight class, 5'7", as is Malott Fiorot. And Malott Fiorot is usually bigger than everybody, and she's usually more physical than everybody. But we saw in that Valentina Shevchenko fight, she wasn't able to just go out there and bully Valentina Shevchenko. Is she going to be able to bully Jasmine Jasudavicius? I think not. I think if Jasmine can get this fight to the ground, obviously it's where she wants it to be, because on the feet she's going to be a much lesser of a striker. But the good thing about Jasmine is she's tough and aggressive. If you're not a good striker, but you're tough and aggressive, you can make shit happen. All right, you can make shit happen. She's got a decent jab on her. She'll throw some front kicks, but she has no head movement whatsoever. So that's why when I say she's tough, It's a good thing to be tough, but it's also not, because if you're labeled as tough, that means you get hit a lot. So on the feet, if Fiorot can keep it there, she should probably be able to win this. And I do understand why she's the favorite. But if this fight hits the ground, it's a different fight. It's a different fight. Because I don't know that Fiorot is going to be able to get up cleanly or get up easily against Jasudavicius. The thing is, though, Jasmine's been fighting some girls that just aren't really the best grapplers. And I don't think Fiorot's a bad grappler. I think Fiorot probably wins this one. This is probably the end of the storybook run for Jasudavicius. So I'm going to take Fiorot for the early pick. Minus 220, though, is a little bit sketchy, because this is a spot that I'll talk about a lot, right? A girl or a guy that just fought for the title, they lose. They've been working their entire career to get to that title fight, and they lose. The drop-off could be coming because she's 35. Like, what is she going to do now? I guess she could win a couple more fights and get back to the title, but Jasmine's still on her run to the title. Hasn't fought for the title. She's got a lot more momentum, for one, but a lot more incentive to go out there and win this fight, because she wants to get to that title. She's 36 years of age, and we see it all the time, the title fight hangover for a fighter that loses the title fight. It's there. So, I mean, Fiorot at minus 220 is, I'm probably not going to get involved, but I'm going to take her for the pick nonetheless. All right, we got some bantamweights here. We got Eamon Zahabi, the man we talked about a little bit earlier, taking on Marlon Vera, coming in at plus 130. Yeah, man. I mean, Cheeto, I hate watching Cheeto fights, honestly. I hate him. I absolutely hate him, because the guy is just so frustrating. I hate that this guy he refuses to do anything to give himself a chance to win. Just refuses. He refuses to win a first round. He refuses to be aggressive. Every time this man gets into the octagon, it's, let me wait for the perfect time, right? Let me just wait. I'll just wait for the perfect time. And then late in the fight, he lands a big shot, and it's like, oh, there's Cheeto. There he is. It's like, nice, dude. You could have fucking tried that early on in the fight instead of just standing there and taking punches. It's sad, because I liked Cheeto Vera. But it's so frustrating to watch this man fight, because he just never lets anything go until it's way too late. Zahabi, on the other hand, much smarter of a fighter. All right, much smarter, but definitely not as talented when it comes to raw skills, like just God-given skills. Eamon Zahabi is like the fucking scientist out there that looks like he has no part of being in the top 15 of a weight class, but he does it. He does it. I mean, the guy looks so unathletic. He's wearing shorts that go down to his fucking ankles. He's swimming in his shorts. His high guard looks like he's scared, but it's so effective. His defense is so good. His jab is nice, but it's not like one of these snappy jabs where it's like, whapa. It's not fast, but it's effective and accurate. Ariel Helwani just found a way to get it done, man. He's going to find a way to get it done. Eamon Zahabi is the early pick. I would never trust fucking Cheeto Vera to go in there and win a 3-round fight. Just can't fucking do it, dude. Can't fucking do it. He's just not aggressive enough. And if you're not aggressive enough against Eamon Zahabi is just going to fill the space. He's going to win the minutes. You can't really land big shots on Eamon Zahabi. And even if you do, Aldo landed a fucking soccer kick to the face. And he was still alive. He was still alive. And he still came back and beat Aldo. Now, if Aldo doesn't gas out in that 3rd round, then who knows? And Cheeto's not going to gas out. That's the thing about Cheeto. But the thing why he probably doesn't gas out is because he doesn't fucking do anything early in the fight. So I think it's Zahabi first 2 rounds. Round 3 could get interesting, but I think Zahabi wins 29-28 here. Give me Eamon Zahabi for the early pick. Co-main event, we got some welterweights. We got Mike Malott taking on Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland back for his, 5th or 6th fight in 2025? And he's coming off a loss that cost a lot of people money including myself. How you going to lose to a 50-year-old Daniel Rodriguez? I mean, he went in there and got dropped by a 60-year-old D-Rod with the same fucking 1-2 that he throws every combination. Daniel Rodriguez is a 1-2 and a 3-2 guy. And Kevin Holland historically has had one of the best chins of like all time. Like I would rank his chin up there before the Daniel Rodriguez fight. I would rank his chin in the top 5 because he's had so many UFC fights against so many dangerous punchers. Guy doesn't get knocked out. But he got hurt twice in that fight against D-Rod. Nearly finished him in round 3. Nearly submitted him as well. But D-Rod won 29-28. Mike Malott coming off a nice victory against Charles Radke. Got to give him some massive props there because I was worried for him in that fight against Charles Radke, and I actually bet on Charles Radke. Mike Malott looked amazing. So now here he is in his home country once again, and I think Mike Malott could definitely get this one done. But the thing with Kevin Holland is he's such a wild card that I think it could mess with Mike a little bit. You know, he's a guy, Kevin's a little bit unorthodox. Like his strikes look a little bit klutzy, but they're effective. He's a little bit wild, and I don't think Mike's going to like that. But I do think if Mike can get a takedown here against Kevin Holland, I think he could do well in the grappling. Now, Kevin Holland's not a guy that's going to get taken down and like smothered at welterweight like he does at 185. But I do think Mike's ground game is pretty nasty. That if Mike can get a takedown here, I think he can get a takedown. Like, it's not that hard to take down Kevin Holland. But I think if he can get a takedown, I think he could work his way to a position to where Kevin Holland might end up in a bad spot, and he finds a choke. And I think Kevin Holland, he's going to tap. He's going to tap because he just wants to fight every so often. And, you know, getting submitted real quick, it's not going to do anything too bad for him. He can pop back in there in fucking December if he wants to. So give me Mike Malott for the early pick here in his home country. I'm not going to just like shit on Kevin Holland because we've seen this so many times with Kevin Holland, right? This isn't me just wanting to fade Kevin Holland after the Daniel Rodriguez fight when he was a huge favorite and dropped the ball. But I do think like stylistically, I mean, Kevin could hurt Mike. Maybe the under is probably the best play here. But I do think Mike could win. Or Mike should win. He's going to be my early pick here, but I'm going to watch some more tape on it. You know, see how Mike does against like a tall, lengthy striker if I can find some film on it. But Kevin's just a wild card, so give me Mike Malott for the early pick. Brings us to the main event. We got Rainier de Ritter taking on Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen, the 29-year-old with 17 UFC fights, trains at Killcliff FC, taking on RDR, who also trains at Killcliff FC. This is interesting because I don't know that a lot of people realize this, but these guys have been training at Killcliff for Brendan Allen's been there for a while, but RDR's been there for a few years. So, I mean, these guys are probably very familiar with each other. And obviously, RDR was supposed to fight Anthony Hernandez. Hernandez pulled out with an injury. Would have loved to see that fight. Would have been a sick fight. But this one is okay. You know, RDR is coming off the win against Robert Whittaker, which is obviously amazing. You know, if you beat Robert Whittaker, you should be fighting for a title. But I guess that's not how it works anymore because Whittaker's probably fallen off a little bit. So if, you know, the title eliminator was supposed to be Anthony Hernandez, I was cool with that. But RDR, man, never thought this guy would be in a position where he's like one fight away from a title. I just don't know if this is the fight that's going to get him there. Because if you beat Brendan Allen, that's not exactly like give this guy a title. You know, it's kind of tough for RDR. But as long as he stays active and he gets wins, it's good for him. How does this fight play out stylistically? I mean, RDR on the feet, it looks terrible, but it's somewhat effective. And Brendan Allen seems to have some gas issues if you're going to be grappling for a long time. But I don't think he's like one grappling sequence and he's done. That was more so the Imavov fight. You've seen it a little bit in some other fights, but not as blatant as that Imavov fight. And there was some weird stuff going on there. But he's coming off the win to Marvin Vettori. Out kickboxed him for 3 rounds and pretty much saw that one coming. He's a good kickboxer, man. He's slick on the feet. He's got a good jab, good leg kick, good volume. And he can do that for 15 to 25 minutes without like gassing out. but I don't know that RDR is going to give him a clean kickboxing battle like Marvin Vettori did. It's going to be really awkward. He's going to go in there and try to wear you down. And I think he probably does. I could see Brendan Allen getting RDR in some bad spots. I think if Allen can hit him with like a big right hand, get him down to the ground, I think he could sub him. Because Brendan Allen has elite rear naked chokes. And if he hurts you and gets on your back, the fight's probably over. But I don't know that he's going to do that. I would favor RDR here. I think if he can get on top of Brendan, he's going to be able to wear down Brendan Allen. And Brendan Allen's not going to like the physicality. He's not going to like the wear that's going on to his body. He's not going to like the chaos going on in front of him. That's going to hurt his gas tank as well. And it's not like RDR is some cardio monster that just goes in there and tries to wear you down. But that does affect people. It affects people a lot. Every single fight that we've seen of his in the UFC outside of the round 1 sub against Kevin Holland, Gerald Meerschaert, not a guy that like gasses out. And he gassed out against the RDR and RDR submitted him in round 3. Bo Nickel, not a guy that probably has cardio issues, but he got worn out and TKO'd in round 2. Robert Whittaker, a guy that has been championship rounds many, many times. He loses the championship rounds to RDR because he's so worn out and RDR is just in the clinch, pummeling him to the body, knees to the gut. So it's a style that's really hard to prepare for, and it's a style that's very hard to deal with, especially on short notice. So I like RDR here for the early pick. I'm going to take him. But he's got to watch out. He's got to watch out because, that recklessness that we've talked about with DDP in the past, it could come back to bite him, but it hasn't come back to bite him in the UFC thus far, just in one championship against the guy that was shooting up some nice roids, so I don't think Brendan Allen's going to be pulling that out. So give me RDR for the early pick. That's going to do it for the video. I appreciate you for watching early in the morning. Drop me a comment saying a happy birthday to my daughter who's turning 1 tomorrow. We got our birthday party today. That's why I'm recording this at 6 a.m. in the morning for y'all. Appreciate y'all. Until next time, hey, Jive Picks.